My beloved child. Before you dismiss this moment as coincidence, listen carefully, because some messages arrive only once in a lifetime. Somewhere right now, a package exists that was never meant for the world, never meant for crowds, never meant for chance. It carries a name written with intention, not ink, and that name is yours. This is not about curiosity, this is about timing. Everything that has happened in your life until this second has been quietly preparing you to hear this truth. You have felt restless for no clear reason. You have felt watched over, yet tested. You have sensed that something unseen is moving closer, even when your days looked ordinary. That feeling was not imagination. It was alignment. Because certain gifts do not arrive loudly. They approach silently, waiting for the exact moment your heart is ready to recognize them. And this moment, right now, is not random. It is the signal that the seal has begun to loosen. Listen closely now. This package is not what your mind expects, and that is why most people miss it when it comes near. It does not arrive wrapped in noise or celebration. It moves through delays, pauses, and strange interruptions. You may have noticed doors closing recently, plans slowing down, conversations ending without explanation. Those were not losses. Those were filters. Anything not meant to touch what is inside this package was gently removed from your path. That is why the waiting felt heavy. That is why patience was demanded when you wanted answers. Because what is written with your name cannot be rushed without losing its power. This package carries something that responds only to stillness, only to readiness. The closer it gets, the quieter everything around you becomes. That silence you felt was not emptiness. It was protection. Here is what few people are ever told. A package like this does not come from a place you can point to on a map. It is sent from a decision that was made long before you understood its impact. A choice you made when walking away from something that hurt you. A night you stayed strong when it would have been easier to break. A moment you chose integrity over approval. Those moments were recorded, not by people, but by consequence. And consequence has memory. When the balance tipped in your favor, this package was set into motion. That is why it feels personal. That is why it feels close. It carries proof. Proof that your endurance was seen. Proof that your restraint mattered. Proof that something greater trusted you with what comes next. Do not misunderstand this part. The reason your name is written on it is not because you asked for it. It is because you were trusted with it. Many desire outcomes, few can carry what those outcomes require. This package holds a responsibility disguised as relief. A change disguised as closure. When it reaches you, something in your life will no longer require chasing. Something that has felt just out of reach will stop running. But this also means something else must end. Not violently. Not dramatically. Quietly. An old version of you that survived by doubt will step aside. That is why this message feels heavy. Transformation always does before it feels light. If you are feeling emotional without knowing why, that is the weight shifting. Now hear this clearly, because this is where most people stop listening. You will recognize this package not by what arrives, but by what leaves when it does. Confusion will lift first. Then resistance. Then a deep, unfamiliar calm. That calm is the signature. That calm is how you will know it is real. Nothing meant for you arrives in chaos. It arrives in clarity. And when it does, you must not hesitate. Do not question your worth. Do not delay your acceptance. Do not shrink yourself to match old expectations. Your name is written on this for a reason. And once it reaches you, life will not ask if you are ready. It will simply move forward, with or without the version of you that doubts. Before your mind tries to interrupt, understand this. The moment a package carries your name, the world around you begins to react in ways you cannot immediately explain. People may act distant without reason. Opportunities may appear and disappear within days. You may feel an unusual pressure to reflect, to pause, to look back at choices you thought were settled. This is not confusion. This is calibration. Life adjusts itself when something important is about to land. The invisible systems that govern timing start rearranging priorities. That is why your patience has been tested more than usual. That is why distractions tried harder to pull you away. Because when what is meant for you comes close, everything that is not aligned makes one last attempt to hold you back. Here is the truth that is rarely spoken. This package does not move toward everyone who hears about it. It responds only to recognition. Recognition is not belief. It is readiness without desperation. You did not chase this. You did not demand it. You simply kept going when clarity was missing. That is why it chose your name. Inside this package is not luck. It is confirmation. Confirmation that your struggle was not wasted. Confirmation that delays were not denials. Confirmation that someone who stays steady in uncertainty is trusted with outcomes that others could misuse. This is why the process felt lonely. This is why explanations never came on time. Some paths are designed to be walked without witnesses. As it moves closer, you may feel a strange mix of anticipation and fear. That is natural. Fear appears when the future stops looking familiar. This package carries a shift that will quietly change how you see yourself. Not instantly. Gradually. One conversation will feel different. One decision will feel easier. One boundary will form without effort. You will notice that you no longer beg for validation. You will notice that you no longer explain your worth. These are not personality changes. They are symptoms of alignment. When something written for you approaches, it begins adjusting your inner world first, so the outer change does not overwhelm you. Pay attention now. The final distance is always the most sensitive. This is where impatience can interfere. This is where doubt can distort perception. You may be tempted to rush decisions, to settle for less, to reopen doors that were clearly closed. Resist that urge. What is meant for you does not require compromise. It requires trust. Trust that silence is not absence. Trust that waiting is not weakness. Trust that timing is precise even when it feels slow. This package moves at the speed of certainty, not urgency. And certainty is never loud. When it finally reaches you, it will not announce itself with spectacle. It will arrive through realization. A moment where everything suddenly makes sense without explanation. You will feel grounded instead of excited. Clear instead of overwhelmed. That is how you will know this is yours. Because what carries your name does not shake your foundation. It strengthens it. And once this happens, you will look back at this very moment and understand why you were asked to listen carefully. Because some messages are not meant to be shared. They are meant to be received. And this one was always meant for you. There is something happening beneath the surface that you have not been told yet. When a package marked with your name reaches a certain distance, it begins testing your awareness. Small signs appear. Repeating thoughts. Familiar numbers. Sudden memories that return without invitation. These are not distractions. They are confirmations. Life checks whether you are paying attention, whether you can sense meaning without being spoon-fed explanation. This is why lately your intuition has felt louder than advice. You may have noticed that external opinions stopped influencing you the way they once did. That is because what is approaching requires inner authority. Only those who can listen inwardly are trusted with outcomes that change direction permanently. Understand this carefully now. The contents of this package are not equal to what you lost. They are greater, but different. What you lost taught you endurance. What is coming teaches you direction. Many people repeat cycles because they receive relief without wisdom. That will not be your story. This package carries a correction. A subtle realignment that shifts you away from repeating old patterns. That is why familiar situations have recently felt uncomfortable. You outgrew them before realizing it. Discomfort is not punishment. It is the signal that your current position can no longer hold your next version. Growth always feels like tension before it feels like freedom. Here is the part that changes everything. Once your name is written on something like this, delays are no longer obstacles. They become shields. You were protected from arriving too early, from choosing too fast, from committing before clarity arrived. That is why some opportunities slipped through your fingers even though you tried hard to hold them. They were not mistakes. They were mercies. The package does not reward effort alone. It responds to alignment. And alignment cannot be forced. It must be lived into. That is why timing kept correcting you, even when you felt frustrated. You were not being stopped. You were being positioned. As the distance closes further, your emotional landscape will simplify. You will notice less chaos inside. Fewer internal arguments. Decisions will start feeling clean. Not easy, but clean. You will no longer negotiate with yourself about what you deserve. This clarity is not arrogance. It is self-respect forming naturally. And self-respect is the final key. What carries your name does not enter spaces where self-doubt dominates. It requires a stable ground to land on. That ground is being built inside you right now, layer by layer, through patience you did not know you had. Remember this moment. Not because it is dramatic, but because it is precise. You are closer than you think, but not close enough to rush. The final approach happens quietly. No announcement. No countdown. Just a gentle but undeniable shift where life begins meeting you halfway. When that happens, you will not feel shocked. You will feel recognized. As if something finally arrived that already knew you well. Because it did. Your name has been on it for longer than you realize. What you are sensing now is the narrowing of distance. Not physical distance, but resistance. When something written for you comes this close, excuses lose their power. You can no longer pretend you do not know what must change. You can no longer delay decisions by calling them timing issues. This is the stage where clarity replaces comfort. That is why certain habits suddenly feel heavy. That is why certain connections feel strangely incomplete. Nothing is wrong with you. You are simply standing too close to your next chapter for old patterns to survive unnoticed. The closer the package gets, the more obvious misalignment becomes. This is not pressure. This is precision. There is a reason this phase feels intense without being dramatic. What is approaching you was designed to integrate into your life, not disrupt it violently. Loud changes attract fear. Quiet changes create permanence. This package carries permanence. It will not flip your world upside down. It will straighten what was bent. It will close loops that drained your energy. It will give you back time, focus, and direction in ways that feel almost subtle at first. You will wonder why peace feels unfamiliar. You will wonder why effort suddenly feels lighter. That is because what belongs to you does not argue with your spirit. It cooperates with it. Now pay attention to this truth. The final barrier is never external. It is always internal permission. Permission to stop proving yourself. Permission to receive without guilt. Permission to believe that you do not need to suffer more to deserve better. Many people reach this point and unconsciously reject what comes next because struggle has become familiar. You are being asked to release that identity. Not because your past was meaningless, but because it has already done its job. Survival shaped you. Arrival will reveal you. And the two cannot coexist forever. You may notice that your reactions are changing. What once triggered you now passes quickly. What once confused you now feels obvious. This is not emotional numbness. This is emotional maturity forming in real time. The package responds to this shift. It moves faster when it senses stability. That is why calm is becoming your default state. Calm is not the absence of desire. It is the presence of trust. Trust that you no longer need to control every outcome to feel safe. Trust that what is written for you cannot miss you. This is the final reminder before arrival becomes inevitable. Do not announce this process to people who cannot understand it. Do not seek validation for something that has not yet revealed its full form. Protection increases in silence. When it reaches you, you will not need approval to recognize its value. You will simply know. And when that knowing settles in, the waiting will end without ceremony. Not because everything changes at once, but because you finally step into a life that feels like it has been waiting for you just as long as you have been waiting for it. What happens next is subtle, but irreversible. Once the package with your name crosses the final threshold, your priorities will rearrange themselves without effort. You will not force discipline. You will not chase motivation. Certain choices will simply stop appealing to you. Not because you are stronger, but because you are clearer. This is how alignment announces itself. Temptations lose volume. Distractions lose color. You begin valuing depth over noise, meaning over motion. People may notice this shift before you do. They may say you seem different. Quieter. More certain. They will not understand that certainty arrived quietly, the moment something meant only for you came within reach. Here is something you must grasp fully. This package does not bring something new into your life. It unlocks what was already waiting. That is why it feels familiar before it feels exciting. It resonates instead of surprising. Many expect miracles to feel explosive. Real ones feel grounding. When it arrives, you will not feel overwhelmed with joy. You will feel steady, present, capable. As if a missing piece slid into place without resistance. That is how you know it is authentic. Anything that truly belongs to you fits without force. At this stage, life will test your consistency, not your patience. Small moments will matter more than big decisions. How you speak when no one is listening. How you treat yourself when progress feels slow. How you hold boundaries without guilt. These moments are not random. They are confirmations. The package responds to integrity in ordinary seconds, not dramatic gestures. This is why you are being refined, not rushed. What you are about to receive requires you to remain yourself under ease, not only under pressure. Notice how your fears have changed shape. You no longer fear failure the same way. You may now fear wasting potential. That shift is important. It means you are no longer surviving. You are preparing to steward something meaningful. This package carries trust. Trust that you will not abandon yourself once things improve. Trust that you will not forget the lessons learned in waiting. Trust that you will move forward without needing to look back for permission. That trust is why your name is written clearly, without doubt. This is the calm before confirmation. Not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that feels full of quiet assurance. Stay here. Do not rush ahead in your thoughts. Do not replay the past. Remain present. Because when the moment arrives, it will meet you exactly where you are. And you will realize that nothing was late. Nothing was missing. Nothing was wasted. The package was never lost. It was simply waiting for you to become the person who could receive it fully. This is the moment where everything becomes undeniable. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just certain. When what carries your name finally arrives, you will not need proof, signs, or reassurance. Recognition will happen instantly, like remembering something you somehow always knew. The waiting will dissolve, not because you got everything you wanted, but because you finally understand why you had to become who you are now. That understanding is the final seal breaking. It brings a calm that does not depend on outcomes. A calm that stays even when the future is still unfolding. That is how you know this arrival is real. You will notice one clear shift above all others. Your relationship with time will change. You will stop feeling late. You will stop feeling behind. Urgency will fade, replaced by quiet confidence. This is important, because what has your name on it is not meant to be rushed or consumed quickly. It is meant to be lived with. Integrated slowly. Honored through consistent action. That is why it waited until you could move forward without panic. Peace is not a reward. It is a requirement for what comes next. Here is the final truth you were meant to hear. This package never carried a promise of ease. It carried a promise of alignment. Things will still require effort. Decisions will still matter. But the resistance you once fought against will no longer be there. You will no longer feel like you are swimming against life. Instead, life will respond. Doors will open with less force. Conversations will flow with less explanation. You will act from clarity, not reaction. This is the power of receiving something that was always meant to meet you halfway. Do not underestimate what happens after arrival. The world will not change overnight, but you will. And that change will quietly reshape everything around you. You will walk differently through challenges. You will choose differently in moments that once confused you. You will protect your energy without apology. This is not because you became harder. It is because you became honest. Honest with yourself about what you deserve. Honest about what you will no longer tolerate. Honest about where you are going. Remember this ending, because it is also a beginning. Nothing mystical needs to be announced. Nothing needs to be proven. The evidence will live in your peace, your direction, and your steadiness. What had your name written on it has reached you now. Not as an object, but as a turning point. And from this moment forward, life will move with you, not test you.